I really doubt that we're going to see an inflationary cycle, although I will say that all the economists in the administration are watching that very closely.
You've joined the recent chorus of economists who acknowledge that it was a mistake to call inflation, quote, transitory. But it's worth noting the fundamental mistake, President Biden's reckless tax and spend policies that have sent the cost of living skyrocketing, almost 20% since he took office. Families pay more today for pretty much everything than the day Joe Biden was sworn into office. Real wages are almost 4% lower than when he became president. The Federal Reserve has hiked borrowing rates to try to control inflation. Mortgage payments for the median price new home are now nearly $1,200 higher per month. Prices at the store are up. The cost of a gallon of gas is roughly 50% higher today than when President Biden took office. These are the facts. This is the reality that American families are living in President Biden's economy. Instead of allowing families hit by these high prices to keep more of their hard-earned money, President Biden wants the highest tax increase on families and small businesses in American history. Last week, President Biden called for the Trump tax cuts to expire, promising, quote, "If I'm reelected, it's going to stay expired." So President Biden's plan is for the average family of four making $75,000 to pay an extra $1,500 to the IRS each year. President Biden's promise is that the child tax credit will be slashed in half. President Biden's promise is that small businesses will face a 43.4% tax rate. This will all happen when the Trump tax cuts all expire under his watch. Basic facts. President Biden's promise is that family farms will be forced to sell off to big corporations to pay the death tax. In his latest budget, President Biden continues breaking his promise to not raise taxes on families making less than $400,000.
IMF came out a couple of days ago with a report. They're very concerned about where we're at financially. My background before I got here, 30 years in business, a lot of entities, basically hundreds and hundreds of balance sheets and income statements. I'm very concerned as well, because at some point, 49 out of 50 governors have to balance the budget. You can't continue down this road. Now, they're concerned because our deficit this year went from 1.4 trillion last year to 1.7. Interest on the debt, as you know, is close to $1 trillion. I've been here long enough, not quite 20 years, but been here long enough to clearly know that in the last 20 years, it's over $20 trillion in debt. And there's a lot of finger pointing going on, but we need to find a way to work together. It's got to be dealt with at some point. I know you've laid something out, but I've heard these stories, not so much from you, but others, about pretty pictures down the road. But I look around the room here, and I have 10 grandkids, and I look around the room, there's a lot of kids in here under 30, and we're spending their money. And we got to get very real about it. If you're in the state of Florida, one thing they have to do is pass a balanced budget amendment. That's the only thing they have to do, but they have to do that. And by the way, 49 out of 50 governors have to do the same thing. So I guess I ask you, what's your feeling about the IMF and their report a couple of days ago where they're very concerned about where we're at financially and where we're going?
Well, I would say I'm not terribly concerned about where we are, but I do have concern about where we're going unless we undertake some significant steps to reduce the budget deficit. And if you look at the president's 2025 budget, you'll see that he's proposed $3 trillion in measures to reduce the deficit over the next decade. I think that's important.
Let me ask you, Madam
what it does is it keeps a key metric of the burden of the debt, which is real net interest that we have to pay on the
I'm
debt.
limited on my time. I want to get to this other question. You've talked about nobody paying any taxes above 400. I was chairman of the Florida Chamber, 130,000 businesses in the chamber, and I'd say 95% were pass-through entities. You're talking about letting that sunset. So what that means, so you understand, if someone's got 200-300 employees or 50 employees, you could very well be at 53%, 54% taxes all in, because the pass-through rate would go back to 39.6 or 3.2. And then if you look at states, I hate to say it, California and New York and some of the other states, the great states, but they have another 10, 15% tax on top of it. So pass-through entities could very well, and then you're looking to get rid of 199A, could very well be north of 50%. And what's your thoughts on that?
Well, the president is committed to ensuring that no family, including those with pass-through businesses making under $400,000, would see their tax increase. But he does believe, for the sake of tax fairness, that it is appropriate for wealthy individuals and corporations to pay more.
I've been in the real world in terms of building businesses and everything else. You might have 60, 80, 90 employees, you make 600, but then you got to give up half of it or a good portion of it. Just 400 is nothing if you're trying to build a business, small and large. I'm not talking about large corporations. I'm talking about small business. And it'll be a huge burden on these entities, from that standpoint. So I'm just telling you, if I look across Florida, a lot of these small and medium-sized businesses, yeah, they do make 600, but they don't take home 600. They take home 100, 150, 200. They leave the capital in there to grow and build their business. That's the reality about where that's at. What's your
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
Make sure you join the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And we had Janet Yellen in the house, but of course, with all the distractions, she comes in, leaves out, and no one notices. But don't forget, guys, she stated that inflation was transitory right along with Jerome Powell. But anyone who understands the basics of money knows if you print 80% of all currency in existence in 2 years, you're going to get inflation. So we know for a fact, anyone who's working for the Treasury or the Fed, they're educated in economics. They knew what was going to happen. That was part of the plan. Create all this inflation so they could raise rates, so they could destroy the economy. And remember, guys, it's not just in the U.S., this is global. So then therefore they can bring on the robots, algorithms, and drones. With all this inflation, not only are Americans hurting, but you're talking about the globe. But unfortunately, they've broken up the family. People are not uniting to stand up against all this inflation. Remember, guys, there's only a handful of companies that own everything. It's nothing but corporate greed. It could stop tomorrow. But unfortunately, the sheep are distracted on things that don't matter. But guys, in 2025, the curtain gets to come down, and they'll be able to see reality. Like Michael Saylor stated, 3 to 5 years, that's when this digital economy is going to start being built. That's when you're going to see all this adoption over the next 3 to 5 years. Remember, guys, this is a plan. It moves in phases. And Biden has stated he's going to allow these Trump tax cuts to end, which is going to raise rates on all Americans, even though Janet Yellen is not admitting it, even though it may be temporarily. Remember, guys, they want to bring the American citizens to their knees, because that's the only way you're going to accept these digital currencies, these CBDCs, sitting at home getting free money, letting the machines take over the economy. They have to dangle that carrot or beat you with sticks. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. And in order to bring in 15-minute cities, this climate agenda is going to get pushed. And only a few people are going to be able to afford to travel. And gas cars are going to get banned. Remember, they don't want private ownership of vehicles. Vehicles are going to be more like a business. You already heard it from Elon. And that's the reason why cryptocurrencies are so important, because it gives the machines money. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, It's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
My constituents tell me about the challenges they face when they fill up their cars or buy their groceries or pay the rent or mortgage. And the numbers show the pain behind me that's still continuing to increase to this day. And they're the results of Bidenomics and the policies that have been increased by the Democrats over the last 3 years.
I want to refer also to your report on the fiscal health that came out just a month or two ago of the country. And you show that given current financial policies, including that in your budget, within 75 years, we'll just continue to see that increasing and would be at 513% or some above 500% of GDP at the end of a 75-year period. You say in that report the current policy is not sustainable and the cost of delaying policy reform is significant, will make it much harder to implement changes that will affect that trajectory. Do you think that's a real threat to the country going forward?
Are you referring to the Social Security report there?
No, I'm referring to a report on the nation's fiscal health done by the U.S. Treasury, signed by you.
Secretary Yellen, as you know, low carbon hydrogen can reduce carbon emissions and create much needed American jobs. Ohio is well positioned to lead on hydrogen given the state's proximity to the end markets, as well as its access to low cost, abundant, and diverse energy feedstocks.
The hydrogen provisions of IRA are very important, and we've worked hard to put out a notice of proposed rulemaking that will provide some clarity and flexibility to let projects advance with the appropriate environmental safeguards.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go, but clearly we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. We will, and if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and you know, when the dealers have to step in to save a treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. I hate when countries go off the dollar. I would not allow countries to go off the dollar, because when we lose that standard, that will be like losing a revolutionary war. That will be a hit to our country, just like losing a war. And we can't let that happen. And too many countries now are fighting to get off the dollar.
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Xrp, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.